Hey guys, let's talk Beyond the Gates for today, March 9th, 2026. So, with this episode, we start with Naomi and Chelsea. They are at Naomi's house, and um, Chelsea is there helping Naomi get dressed to go to Uptown, and they're going to meet Ashley there. And Naomi asks if Kat is meeting them there, and she finds out that Chelsea and Kat aren't, still aren't on good terms. And so Naomi actually irritates me majority of the time, but I can say that with this situation, especially when it comes to Kat, because I get the feeling often when it's Kat that Naomi doesn't like. I ain't gonna say she don't like her cousin, but like she ain't like she's like everybody else that feels like, oh, Kat is a spoiled brat. She kind of takes that kind of approach to Kat. So for her to be able to be objective in this situation and tell her sister, look, you and Kat need to get it together. And Kat isn't resentful necessarily of what you have going on in your life. Is a lot of change for it's a lot going on. And so she basically tells her, I'm going to go meet Ashley. You need to work things out with Kat. And it is important that Kat and Chelsea work things out because their family is going through something that could be life altering. And with them going through something that could potentially be life altering, it's important that they stick together. And that's my little problem with Nicole because I feel like Nicole pops in every now and again, like at her parents' house, but she's so wrapped up in what Nicole wants and what Nicole needs at the moment that I feel like she's kind of disconnected from her family. Like we see Danny with her mom having all these deep conversations with her mom and, dealing with this. And okay, yeah, because Danny has the BRCA gene, that kind of makes sense. But at the same time, your mother is fighting the fight of her life. And I would just expect Nicole to be there more present. And I get Anita wants everyone to continue to live their life, but I still need Nicole to be a little bit more present as far as everything that's going on with her mom's health. But anyway, speaking of Nicole, she Kat comes to meet with Nicole, and Nicole is, trying to ask her about what's going on with her and Chelsea. And Kat is dismissive, and then she was like, well, we're going to talk about, your hatred towards Leslie. And while I get what Nicole was trying to say, that you are letting her consume you, I don't like the comparison she made that Kat is acting like Leslie, because Kat isn't acting like Leslie at all. And it's offensive to me for her to say such a thing because Leslie wants what she wants, how she wants it, and she will do anything to get what she wants. And if anyone stands in her way of her getting what she wants, she will eliminate them because basically she needed Laura out of the way to get what she wanted. And so Laura was expendable to her. Her and Kat are not the same because Kat is not willing to harm an innocent person in order to get Leslie or Eva. Her not wanting to engage with them, her being angry that they're walking around scot free, that is perfectly normal and and I understand it. But to act as if she is the same as Leslie, I was very upset that Nicole said something like that to her daughter. And the writing really irritates me because you told this story about how Kat is this miracle child and they loved and spoiled and doted on her. But now we have this situation where no one is really like, they are very dismissive of Kat and her feelings. It's just like, oh, get over it and move on. When we saw last week, Nicole hasn't even gotten over it. So how dare you tell her to get over it when you're not over it? You're still having fights and incidents with Leslie yourself. But Kat's supposed to just swallow it. Meanwhile, Eva is steady doing things to her, sleeping with her boyfriend, keep coming around her. You know we don't get along, so why are you coming around me to say anything? Like, you, I don't know. I don't know. Everybody's putting it on Kat, but I don't see it that way. Meanwhile, Smitty is helping Samantha with her homework, and he is distracted because he's getting texts from Jacob. And at one point, he basically was like, "Forget you and your homework, and I gotta go." And he leaves to go meet with Jacob, who tells him that Grayson, Ashley's boyfriend, is the person that did the drop. And so they're trying to figure out how they can minimize the damage. They're trying to see if they can, see what's going on with Grayson, to see if he can be trusted and whatever. He calls Grayson, who is at Uptown with Naomi and Ashley, and he asks Grayson, you know, they need to talk and don't say nothing. Then I can't help but think that both Smitty and Jacob are in over their heads. Anyway, Chelsea and Kat, they ended up talking, and Kat was able to communicate what she feels, and Chelsea, I feel like, could have taken a little bit more accountability because she did kind of like, she's like flighty, and that's me. I like to do things with a plan, and so I don't really do flighty well. And so I just feel like maybe Chelsea could have took responsibility for being a little bit flighty and springing everything on Kat after the fact without actually considering her and giving her a heads up. But they were able to talk and come back together, which is good. But Kat was like, "I'm still moving out. It's still what's best for me, and that's what I'm going to do." So I like that she was able to, get to find common ground with her cousin slash bestie, but know that, yeah, I still need to get out on my own too. So I like that. Um, and then Martin had a conversation with Bill, and he's basically telling Bill to keep an eye out on Haley because, when you go through something traumatic like that, it can be hard to recover and you don't know how deep, it actually runs. And, Bill's like, "No, she's okay." But he was like, "You think you're okay until you're not." But the girl is okay because she faking. Bill goes over and he talks to Joey and um tells Joey that, "I'm sorry that my wife came trying to poach one of your guys." And Joey was like, "Yeah, he can't have Sammy though, but if you need me to, I can get you somebody." And Bill's like, I can get my own bodyguard." And then Joey also had a conversation with Vanessa, and Vanessa says Deanna is coming home and maybe we can have dinner. And Joey was like, "Yo, your daughter's still grieving. I don't think this is a good time." And she's like, "No, it's perfectly fine." And later on, she meets with Nicole, and Nicole basically tells her, "You're doing too much." And as we saw in the preview, she doing too much. But I'll see you guys tomorrow. Hey guys, let's talk Beyond the Gates for today, March 10th, 2026. So we start this episode with Ted and Shanice, and Ted just got out of surgery, but he's still recovering from the basketball game the other day, and he is still having problems with his hamstring. So, Shanice, who is also a physical therapist, takes him into like the physical therapy room to kind of work out his hamstring. And he's kind of resistant because we know doctors make the worst patients. And he's kind of resistant to her methods. But then later, he's icing and has his leg elevated as she directed at his hotel suite. When is that man gonna get a house? Because him living in this hotel is getting real old real quick. But he is resting, elevating, and icing his leg, and Shanice comes over to further help him recuperate. And of course, recuperating ends up in the bed. And yeah, and they're talking with one another and expressing how they save one another. And she was like, she never thought that she could be with a man like Ted. And he was like, what are you talking about? We're both healthcare professionals. And he's a man of means. And I guess she isn't, which is a little weird to me because isn't her aunt renowned and a renowned oncologist? So her acting like, oh my God, so enamored with Ted really irritates me because, like, girl, act like you've been somewhere and used to something, but I digress. Then we have Smitty. He's at home working, and while he's working, Nicole comes over because she is dropping off Tyrell and Samantha's cotillion shoes so that they can start walking around the house in them to break them in. So that when it's cotillion time, they'll be used to wearing them, and you know how that goes. And so he was like, you didn't have to go out of your way to do this. And she was like, well, Samantha called me and asked me to because she says that you're distracted with work. And he's like, oh, I'm never too concerned with work, too concerned with my to not be concerned with my family, but you really blew that girl off while she was doing her psych homework. And if she's doing psych homework, why is Smitty helping her with psych homework when her grandmother is the psychologist? But I digress. Anyway, so he did blow her off, the other day when she was doing her homework. Let's not act like that didn't happen, Smitty. You are way too invested in this case that you have going on with Jacob to even pay any attention. And when the last time you seen Tyrell? Anyway, so they were talking about that, and Nicole was like, you do have a family, so if you need to tap me in, let me know, and I'll be more than willing to do so. And I'm surprised she was even offering herself because the last time she offered herself up to speak with Jessica, to this day, Jessica ain't spoke to her. But I digress. I'm going. I might not. I was going to say I'm going to keep my foot off Nicole's neck, but probably not because Nicole deserves it because she treats Kat horribly. But I digress. Anyway, so speaking of Jacob, Jacob and Grayson meet, and Jacob is basically trying to make Grayson think that he's not under cover and that he is working to pay off a debt. And Grayson is skeptical because he was like, I just was with Naomi and Ashley. And he was like, Ashley don't know all our business, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if Grayson bought it. I, it's just getting real sticky. And I think that Jacob is in way over his head. But anyway, Jacob calls Smitty to tell Smitty that he spoke with Grayson and he thinks that he bought it. And I feel like Smitty and Jacob working on this is like Dumb and Dumber working on something because it's just not good. But anyway, so we have Joey and Vanessa, they were at the country club because she's really steady, constantly, consistently trying to assimilate him to her lifestyle, but it's never going to work. And we see that today because she also has a meeting with Pam after her and Joey go back and forth, and he nixes the dinner. He's still not on board with the dinner with Deanna, but we know it's going to happen because Deanna gonna snap on her mama. But anyway, um she has a meeting with Pam, and Pam is like, she has this, they want to honor um Vanessa, and then Vanessa's thinking about the things that she's into, and she's not honorable anymore, and she has to turn it down because she don't need the heat or the eyes, because she is a part of Joey's money laundering scheme, like. And then she has the escort business, and it's just a lot. And she's like, yeah, I know we don't need the eyes. So you're trying to assimilate Joey into your circle, but the things that you and Joey are involved in, you're not going to be even be in your circle pretty soon. But anyway, we also see Danny, Pam, and Andre, and Pam is all excited because Danny has her fashion shoot with Tatum coming up, and she's telling them, who they have slated to be the photographer. And Danny feels a kind of way about the photographer because she heard you previously how he spoke about older models and how he doesn't really appreciate them, and he thinks that it costs too much and takes too much effort to make them look the way they need, well, the impossible beauty standard. Like, people are beautiful at all ages, so he is not someone that believes in that. And so when Danny heard that, she felt kind of self-conscious when she heard that he was going to be the photographer, because she didn't know if she would be able to stand up and give what he needed in the photo shoot. And Pam is trying to encourage her, and then Andre is trying to encourage her about using stories that Danny has told him. And I like seeing husband Andre, because husband Andre is very attentive, and you can tell he listens and absorbs everything that Danny says to him, because he can use it in order to encourage her and to make her feel better, because that's exactly what he did. And she was trying to like brush it off because she knew what story he was about to tell, but she kept trying to brush it off, and he was like, no, tell the story. Like, he's like, I like husband Andre. And Danny, I just hope that Danny realizes that in Andre you have everything that anyone could ever want, because he's loyal, he's faithful, he's attentive, he cares, like all of that. Like, and he ain't with you trying to get your money because he got his own. Like, he is perfect. But anyway, so he pumps Danny up, and she's like, okay, I can do this shoot. And then, they're talking and having lunch. And then Nicole comes in, and Danny is on 10. As soon as Nicole comes in, cracking jokes, laughing. And then Andre is like, chill. And she was like, no, tell her about, XYZ. And he was like, no, I got bro code that I need to follow, just like you would follow girl code. And then he's like, no, I remember when we got married, you said that you would XYZ. And he was like, I don't remember saying that. But it was a little foggy because we know they was 2 shades to the wind, maybe 5, when they got married. And anyway, so he was like, um Ted, Carlton, and Kyle were all playing basketball. And then she was like, does that mean y'all didn't have enough people? And he was like, no, another guy jumped in. And she was like, did you get his number from Nicole? Danny is hilarious. Like, she cracks jokes like nobody's business. Like, she wakes up and it's funny. Like, does Danny did Danny miss her calling? Because she maybe should have been a comedian. And Carla plays her so well. But I'll see y'all tomorrow. Hey guys, let's talk Beyond the Gates for today, March 11th, 2026. So, with this episode, we start with Leslie and Vanessa. They're at the club, and it's funny because they're doing what they do best, and they have a little back and forth going. And Vanessa ain't never been one to be scared of a Leslie. So she's giving Leslie as good as she can. And it's funny because this is how we meet Deanna. She walks up on her mother and says something to Leslie. And it's nice. And then Vanessa introduces Deanna to Leslie, and she's Leslie act like kind of in the annoying, obnoxious Leslie kind of way, is like, oh, you're so pretty. And then Deanna must have been raised properly because she's like, oh, you're pretty too, or whatever. And then it's funny because Vanessa kind of like steers her way, and she's like, "You're forbidden from liking her." So it's so funny to me because let them kids know we don't like her. We don't f with her. Oops, did I say that? But it's true. We don't. And so she's Deanna is having a lot of trouble, dealing with her grief. So and it comes off a little bit as anger. So like her mom says some things, and she gets a little snippy, and then she apologizes and sorry for getting like that, it's just hard. And Vanessa's like, you don't ever have to apologize to me, I know it's hard, you know but your dad wouldn't want you to wallow in grief. And she's telling her daughter all of this, and she was like, but mom, are you moving on? And she kind of dances around the question, says she's doing the best she can or whatever, but she has completely moved on. She moved on the day Doug died. I'm sorry. Like I said, she is a great friend, but as a wife, as a mother, Vanessa kind of leaves a lot to be desired. Then we have the Grands, and Kat is there, and Kat is asking the Grands, can she move in? Because she needs to give Chelsea and Madison their space, and she needs to be on her own, but not really on her own. And she's like, I will respect your privacy. And I actually like the idea because Kat gets to be there for her grandmother and be there and have people around her that love and appreciate her. And she gets to also have that independence because Vernon and Vernon and Anita aren't about to be breathing down Kat's every move. That's not how they are. And Kat needs a place where she can feel safe. And I don't necessarily know that living alone right now will be, somewhere safe for her. She's not necessarily ready for that. And we all have to do those things in our own time. And my friend said, my good girlfriend said that Kat has chosen somewhere where she can go and experience love because she's not going to get that at Nicole's hostel. And that is like, yes, because unfortunately, for whatever reason, Nicole doesn't extend her miracle baby the kind of love and support and the nurturing that we even saw her get from Gran today. Like, Gran had fallen asleep, and Kat was taking the blanket, to cover her up. And Gran woke up and she was like, oh, hi, love. Like, it was just so natural. Like, and Gran knows how to like rein Kat in when Kat needs to be reined in. And she also knows how to, let and validate her feelings. Like both can happen, and Nicole, for whatever reason, isn't able or capable, and she doesn't offer that to her daughter. And then Kat was disturbed by the noise coming from Leslie building her house. I can't believe I just said that. But and she's like, y'all gotta try and do something. And it's very frustrating that these are supposed to be the almighty decrees, but this nobody, and I don't care because I know that some of you feel like that Cat is elitist, and that statement that I just made may come off that way, but it is. This nobody comes around and she can get whatever and anything she wants, but they can't even like make her stop being a nuisance. It's kind of crazy. And so we also see that Gran goes to Bill, and he's like, Bill, I don't want you to be lazy and do like you did last time and go to Joey, but I want you to use the law to make it work in our favor and make this go away, because this is not cool. Because Anita is sick, and all that noise and commotion is not helpful. And Kat's right. It ain't. Then we have Bill and Haley. They were at their house that they bought. I forgot where. They were there, but then Bill had to come back for work, and she's in a pretty good mood because she's like, "Oh, we got our house got the sexy back," and she's excited, and she's talking about, "Yeah, let's have a baby." And I'm like, "Okay, Haley, you give me whiplash because the way you from day to day, girl, oh, like my head's spinning right now from that. That's how she does me." But it's funny because when Gran comes over to talk to Bill, she comes down in some lingerie. And it's a mess. It's so embarrassing. But Vernon's like, what you do in your own house? I came over here unannounced. What you do in your own house is your business. But not too long ago, you were saying that you was still stuck on my daughter, but and Bill's trying to hush him up. It's hilarious to me the way Bill is all over the place and Vernon be calling him out. Then we have Eva and Derek, and they're talking about the opening because that the ribbon cutting is tomorrow. And so they're talking about that, and then Leslie actually comes over, and she's upset because Vanessa doesn't want her to give a speech. And Eva's like, well, I thought you was just supposed to cut the ribbon and, smile and look fly, which, okay. But she was like, this is my venture, blah, blah, blah. And she gets into it with Derek, and Derek almost quit. But Eva, she manages to like rein them in and get them focused back on what's important. And then once they leave, Mona comes to the food court, and she's trying to invite Mona to the ribbon cutting, and Mona's like, yeah, I'll pass. But what I don't like is she's trying, everybody has to play nice with Eva when Eva is just as guilty as her mother. I'm sorry, but whatevs. Then we have Randy and Lynette. They're at the Orphe Jeans, and they're talking, and she's all excited because the charges against her got dropped. And so now he's like, where are you gonna go? What are you gonna do? And she's like, no, I wanna stick around here. I probably wanna thank Bill. Like she want to push up on Bill. Like, I mean, I wouldn't be mad at it. Like Lynette annoys me, but I wouldn't be mad at it because I mean that's what you live by the sword, you die by the sword. But I'm just saying. But then they start flirting, and then she feed him French fries, and then Mona goes slam off on him. And then he starts talking to her about, how he went to church because he has some things that he needs forgiveness from. And it's Lynette is trouble, and I don't know if Haley realize it or even stupid Randy. But hey, Lynette is trouble and she gonna be trouble for them. But that was Beyond the Gates. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Hey guys, let's talk Beyond the Gates for today, March 12th, 2026. So we start the episode there at Uptown, um, at the kind of like the after party or reception for the grand opening ribbon cutting of the clinic. And we have Donnell, Deanna, and Vanessa there, along with Nicole and Kyle. We have Joey, Leslie, and Eva. Everyone's, there and they're giving speeches. We open up with Vanessa giving a speech, about everything. And, she's sitting at a table with her children. And then we have Joey sitting at a table with Eva and Leslie. And then we also have Nicole at a table with Kyle. And everybody is just talking and conversing. And Deanna has an attitude like all day long. Like, don't really know what it is, but you can see it written all over her face. Like, she is not feeling something. And, her mom's trying to talk to her, but she is just not feeling it. Then we have Joey and Leslie. He's like, now that the clinic's open, I don't have to see you. And then she was like, but I like the liquor you got behind your special stash at the casino. And he was like, I'll send you a case because I don't need to be seeing you because he does not like that lady. And everybody's talking. Nicole's talking with Kyle, and then everybody starts to mingle. And Nicole goes over to mingle with Joey, and she basically is like, I love Vanessa and I don't play about her. And it's just, and I'm trying my hardest not to go on in Nicole's soapbox, but she irritated my soul this whole entire episode because she's telling Joey how, you know, she cares about Vanessa, but she does not extend that same care to Kat. I'm sorry, it's the truth. She does not extend the same care, love, and concern that she gives everyone else to Kat. And she's talking to Deanna about her grief. And then she ends up back at home talking to Kyle about grief because he shared a moment of his grief with Deanna. Well, with who was he talking to? Was he talking to Vanessa? With Vanessa, sorry. With Vanessa and Nicole while they're talking after Deanna like flew off the handle. She's, talking to and sharing his grief because he doesn't really share. So it was good to see him share for once. And he's sharing his grief. And then him and Nicole go back to Nicole's house and she's saying how she would do anything to shoulder her kids' grief. But you don't understand as a psychiatrist. And she said, as a psychiatrist, I understand XYZ. So as a psychiatrist, you should be able to understand that Kat is in a position of grief over the family that she once knew. Leslie and Eva, because let's not pretend that Eva didn't have anything to do with it. Leslie and Eva came in with this plan to embarrass you and to destroy your family because they felt like they deserved everything that you and Ted have built over the years. Let's not act, yeah, she may have been poisoned by Leslie, but she was an active participant even after meeting you and getting to know you. She was an active participant in the activities that took place, in the covering up of the attempted murder of your assistant that you claim to love so much. So let's not pretend like there weren't true grievances. Kat is not being unreasonable or just plain out unforgiving like you trying to make her seem. She actually has legitimate reasonings for feeling the way that she did. And you didn't do anything to help your daughter through her grief. You basically told her to suck it up and get over it. And because she doesn't do that, you're kind of short and impatient with her. But that's okay. But you're the therapist and the psychiatrist that knows better, but you can't recognize the grief in your own child. Yeah, okay. I'm done with that. And then, like I said, Joey, Deanna, Donnell, and Vanessa are there. And, Joey goes to introduce herself to Deanna, and she was very cold and frosty. Vanessa walks her out, and when Vanessa walks him out and comes back, she's talking to Leslie, and Deanna comes over there and says, "How long you been sleeping with Joey?" And she goes slam off. Nobody can talk her down. Her twin is trying to calm her down. She don't want to hear it. Like, because my dad is dead and it's less than 6 months later and you're sleeping with that man. Well, quiet as it's kept, Deanna. Your mama was sleeping with him before your daddy died. Your daddy knew about it, and Joey is the reason your daddy's dead. Like, if that ever comes to light, I don't see how Vanessa ever recovers her relationships with her children, because you couldn't be faithful to your husband or let him go. My dad was killed by your lover. Like, I don't see how they recover from that. But anyway, and then we have Kat meeting Chelsea and Thomas at the country club, and she's telling them that she's moving in with her grandparents, and her grandparents and Chelsea is happy. She's like, "That's good for you," but Tomas, he's feeling kind of way because it affects him, and she didn't talk to him about it. However, if I'm dating somebody, I don't consider them when I'm making my life decisions. The only way that I'm considering someone a partner in making my life decisions is if I'm married to them, and maybe I'm wrong for my take and how I view things, but I'm not making my decisions in life based on someone that can be here today and gone tomorrow. And I know you all saying, "Well, you can be married and here today and gone tomorrow." Yeah, that is true. However, there is a certain level of commitment that is there when you're married and your lives are intertwined and conjoined, that you do have to take their feelings and everything into consideration when making determinations. However, I don't have that when I'm just dating you. I'm sorry. But, Kat apologizes to him for that and says that, she wants to share things with him or whatever. But I'm glad that she's still doing what she needs to do, because do what is best for you. She says she's not ready to be on her own. And we have to, in society, start to consider what you really need and not what society thinks you need. And so I'm cool with Kat moving in with her grands, and then they can have someone that's there and present, because it is probably a lot on Vernon to have to be the sole caretaker. And not saying that Kat is going to come in and become a caretaker for Anita, because that's not something that Anita wants or needs, but just to have someone that cares to be able to help shoulder the weight. Kat is single. Yeah, she has Tomas, but she's single. She has the time. I don't see a problem with it. But yeah, today was pretty funny. I am tired of the soap kids going crazy on their mamas between Jocelyn, Trina, and now Deanna. Whew! But it was good. I'll be back tomorrow. Hey guys, let's talk Beyond the Gates for today, March 13th, 2026. So, in this episode, we have Kat and Donnell there at the food court and they're just chatting. And, he's talking to Kat about her business and, how can she be so calm when she's selling like crazy. And she's like, she is far from calm and like it still excites her to know that they're actually doing this and they're being successful at it. And she is contrary to proper belief because people often think that Kat is self involved and doesn't care about other people. She is being an inquisitive and present friend because she's asking Donnell things about, what's going on with him, his sister, losing their dad and their mom. And she's having the actual conversation and she's not being judgmental. She's being rational and reasonable because she can be if the people around her are being rational and reasonable. But anyway, she's having a conversation with Donnell and, she's talking to him and, helping him see things from a different perspective as far as where things are with Vanessa because, both of the children are kind of struggling with the new reality of Doug not being there and their mother moving on. Deanna isn't handling it well at all, and he's trying to be okay with it. And he said that he actually likes um, Joey. Like, he is, he doesn't really have a problem with Joey. But for Deanna, it's just like, this is a man that is trying to replace their father in their mother's life, and that's hard. And that's my thing with Nicole. I don't think Nicole gets the fact that Kat is grieving the loss of her parents' marriage because her parents, these two people, came in to explode, specifically to explode their marriage. They didn't care about Nicole and Ted's marriage. They came in specifically to explode that. And they were going to do that by any means necessary. And if that meant that Leslie had to commit an attempted murder and Eva had to cover it up for her mother, she had no problems with doing it. That's Kat's issue with even Leslie. But let's act like Kat is being irrational. You can see the Kat, and she was talking about, yesterday, she was saying how Deanna is grieving and all that. You can see grief in everyone else, but you can't recognize that in your own daughter. That is really what irritates me about Nicole. Then we have Joey and Vanessa there at the casino, and she's like, yesterday, she's like, I don't really even know you. Like, Deanna mentioned it, but I didn't realize until she actually said it that, yeah, I don't really know you. I don't know basic information about you. So she's, asking him questions about his family. She finds out that he was abused by his father and he has a sister and he has a mother and he's no longer in contact with his sister. Like, so she's finding out all of this information that she didn't know about him. And then he puts a stop to it because he's like, okay, that's enough of what I feel comfortable sharing. Like, because he's only going to share but so much. Then Donnell comes down to the casino and he's talking to his mom and he's trying to explain to his mom how Deanna is feeling. And she was like, did you try and make a case for Joey? And that really bothered me when she kind of asked him that because it's like, you're worrying about the wrong thing. You're trying to have Joey defended, but not realizing what your daughter is going through. Nobody cares about Joey but you. You should be more concerned with what your daughter is going through emotionally than you are with um than you are with defending Joey. I think her priorities are mixed up in that, and I didn't like that. I was like, ugh, that's not a good look, Vanessa. But then we have Naomi and Derek. They're at Orphe Jeans, and he's talking to Naomi. She's congratulating him on the opening of the clinic, and he's like, yeah, I just hope that Leslie doesn't get bored and drop out. And she was like, well, you can find someone else to do it if that were to happen. And he's like, oh wait, you can do that? She's like, yeah. And so it's that foreshadowing that she will in fact get bored because it's not all about her, and drop out, and then they might have to get someone else to undertake it. I'll be cool with that. But anyway, so we have they're talking, and he asked Naomi how she feels about Grayson, and she's like, I mean, I don't really know him, and if you're over Ashley, why are you worrying about Grayson? And he's like, he just has a feeling about him, and just keep an eye on Ashley. And then Naomi gets a text from Jacob, and Jacob sends her a pin to meet him somewhere because Jacob, I guess, said he needed to get him some. And she goes, and they have a nice evening together, so to speak. And then we have Grayson and Jacob. So Grayson and Jacob were doing another drop at the hospital, and when they were doing the drop, basically, Jacob tells him that you need to leave Ashley alone, and he's like, "Excuse me," and he's like, "Look, do you even know why her and Derek broke up? She and Derek broke up because Derek lied to her, and she broke up with him the same day, and they were engaged. Like, she don't do lies, so you need to break up with her because you're a liar." And he was like, "She'll never find out about my side job." And he said, "Until she does." And he's like, "Just like your wife." And he said, "Yeah, but that's why I'm staying away until I can get my debt paid, blah, blah, blah." And so then Grayson goes to meet with Ashley, and they're talking, and he's saying, how his mom's not eating. I don't know if I believe the whole mother of the whole situation. I don't know if he's just playing on her sympathies because it's easy to do with Ashley, or if his mother is actually in care and having these issues. I don't know. But then he goes back to the hospital, and he's talking to the chief, and the chief, is like, "Look, you need to leave the nurse alone because you can't let nothing to get into your job." And just like we thought, the chief is in on whatever illegal activities they have going on with the plasma ring. She might even be the impaler, which is, I like it. If the impaler is a woman, I like that because yes, queen. But she might be, because he was like, there hasn't been any questions about my work so far. She said, yeah, because you better be glad that there haven't been, because if not, you would have been dead. I'm like, oh shoot. Now the chief up there killing folks. So yeah, this week ended kind of interesting because I was feeling like the chief was in on it. I didn't know what level or not she was in on it, but I definitely felt like she was in on it. So it was good to kind of get that confirmation, because the chief be lurking, and like she be popping out of nowhere. Like you don't see her, and then she's there. So Jacob better be careful, because even when he was on the elevator, he was like, we got to find someone else to do the drops. And he was like, well, nobody is still here. But Jacob is the chief of police's son, and he's Vernon and Anita Dupree's granddaughter. Danny Dupree's son-in-law. I'm pretty sure everybody knows who Jacob is. So if Leah were to see him, she would know what was up. So yeah. But I'll be back next week, guys. Have a great weekend.